who are we? So we were officially founded in 2014. We're a locally focused independent craft brewery in Old East Village. And we're also the only independent craft brewery creating certified organic beer in Ontario. Thank you to the brewery that won't be named for selling. Now we can claim that. And we're also one of only 2 cooperative breweries in Ontario. Cooperative breweries are relatively rare because they are like capital intensive, and we are up to 8 worker owners, which we also refer to as members as of this week. So we clearly do things very differently. So how exactly are we pursuing sustainability? So we are sustainably sourced. Beer is an agricultural product, and all beer begins with farmers. And who, where, and how we source our ingredients from makes a massive impact on the sustainability of our brew. So malts account for 98% by weight of most beers. They don't get the recognition that they should, but that has a huge impact on how sustainable our beer is where we are sourcing those. So these are actually calculations done by the London Environmental Network, and as you can see, like the Ford Transit London line there, you're looking at about a 90% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions when you're sourcing malt locally, as compared to West Coast malts or imported malts from Germany, which are very common across the craft brewing industry. So most of these are actually coming from the Guelph area, from Harvest Hop and Malt. We were also the first craft malt certified brewery in Canada, and that means that we commit to using at least 10% local craft malts, but we are currently quadrupling that and sourcing about 40% of our malts locally. We are also, as I said, certified organic. So as part of that certification, we have to undergo regular audits and ensure frontwards, backwards traceability of our ingredients. Those organic ingredients are grown without the use of petrochemical-based chemical inputs, pesticides, etc. And these are associated with 40–60% less greenhouse gas emissions than conventional farming. Also, these farmers are focusing on soil health, which improves the soil's ability to act as a carbon sink, reduces topsoil loss, and reduces irrigation needs. So in my opinion, I think that our sourcing of ingredients is probably the most impactful thing we do, not just in calculations of greenhouse gas emissions, but in building a more circular economy and having a good relationship with our local farmers. We also brew a little differently than typical, and we've been finding some big and small ways to cut back during our brewing process. So we use about 40% less water than industry standard. And the way that we do this is by recycling during the brewing process. One of the first steps of brewing is the boil. And after you boil with your malts, you're left with something called the wort. So we have to cool this down with water from what's called the cold liquor tank. So this is circulated through a heat exchanger with the hot wort, and this obviously cools the product, but also results in some warm water. That warm water is actually recycled into our hot liquor tank and used for the next brew. And then some very small but very practical ways we reduce our water consumption is having flow meters on our taps. Brewing is a very messy business, and cleanup is 90% of the job. So that just kind of keeps us mindful of our water usage. Even things as small as not using the high pressure hoses of broom. It's easy and very tempting, but it is really wasteful. We were also able to reduce our beer waste, which converted to about 8 metric tons of greenhouse gas, or somewhere around 2,700 meals worth of greenhouse gas emissions during our canning process. During the canning process, the canning line has to be pre-chilled. This is typically done with beer itself, but we were able to do it with chilled sanitizer, which we had to run through anyway, and we were obviously saving quite a few 100 liters of beer that way. Did I skip something? All right, and little by little, so we have a number of small practical ways we're cutting down on waste through our packaging and around the tap room. So we recently converted to E6PRs. So these are fully biodegradable, fully compostable under normal conditions 6-pack ring. They're manufactured from completely organic byproducts from manufacturing of foods and other products. So things that would usually be going to waste are creating our 6-pack rings. They are a little bit more expensive than the cardboard ones, but quite a bit more sustainable. We also use 100% cardboard plastic-free shippers. So this is anything that's getting distributed to the LCBOs, the beer stores, any out-of-town orders. These are being shipped plastic-free instead of in shrink wrap. And then one of my favorite ways, because I love our patio, is the way that we heat our patio. So obviously over COVID, we had to make some adjustments with how we seat people. Investing in our outdoor space became really, really important. So this back patio was actually covered, and then when it came time to find heaters, natural gas was the much cheaper and more typical option, but we went with infrared heaters that you can see sort of up on the wall there. They are associated with 95% less greenhouse gas emissions than the gas counterparts, and it stays just as cozy out there. We also have them automated, so they can only come on below a certain temperature, and they're user controlled. So they're only being used when absolutely necessary, and they really just heat the person and not the air around them. If you've been out there in the fall and winter, it is really nice, almost the whole year. And then finally, this is sort of my area of expertise. Please don't ask me any specific brewing questions because I'm just the marketing manager. But connecting with our community. So this is one of the less tangible but very important ways that we're working towards complete sustainability is by making more connections in our community, not just with the farmers, but with different groups. So one way that we do this is we collaborate with sustainably minded community groups, and we co-brand beers. It's really easy to get people to pay attention when you start with beer. We're very lucky in that way, and this opens up some great conversations about sustainability and brings some attention to these great groups. So this is 3 that we just did over the spring and summer. The last cast was with the Thames River Anglers Association, and they focus on watershed sustainability and fisheries. Reforest London, I'm sure you're all very familiar with. We partnered and did 2 different brews with them just earlier this month, and 50 cents from every can sold supported them. This was also in support of their halfway to their million tree mark. And then earlier this year in the spring, Bird Friendly London partnered with us, and we were able to do 6 unique cans that each had a different way to support the bird population in London. One of those was keeping your cats inside, so there's my indoor cat really enjoying the beer. All right, so at the end of the day, we make very different beer. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for the invitation. So I'm very excited to be here today. And because my name is Carmina, and I design fashion. And I'm always very supportive of sustainable programs and sustainability. So what is Carmina? Carmina and CY Health, we are an organization that makes fashion, manufacture garments. We manufacture garments for other fashion brands as well as for our own in-house brand. We are just about to launch our women's clothing line in the next month or October. Pretty much we're there. And in a couple months we will launch a men's line as well. Through the pandemic, we were producing PPE products. We had to pivot at the beginning of the pandemic, and we had to move quickly to produce a PPE. We also designed PPE, customized products for organizations who were looking for something that is a little bit different than the regular isolation gowns. So we see this is where our expertise in designing fashion came into place, and it was very helpful to be able to help organizations that were looking for something different. We offer product development as well for other brands, and as well for organizations who want to produce a new product and just have an idea. Here is just synopsis of when we started the business. Since 2014, that was when we introduced our first ready-to-wear collection into the London market. It was successful, and since then we have manufactured thousands of women's and men's and children's clothing, and then also pretty much everyday garments. Since the beginning of the pandemic, we produced about 1 million gowns, thousands of reusable gowns, and close to 1 million disposable gowns. So this is a very concerning theme in our company, because we saw the amount of scraps that we were producing, especially when we were producing thousands of gowns every week. So we had gailers, and then we were trying to find a use, not to put them into the landfill. So a few facts here: resource depletion, climate change, water pollution, human rights, air pollution, food insecurity. We all know about these problems. And growing in Mexico, I have that experience myself, because I do remember growing up how my parents, we were looking for resources of water, and we had to grab 2 buckets and like a piece of wood. We put the buckets and we went to the neighbors to ask for water, because not everybody had enough water. Talking to my family in Mexico, I now realize that since the time I left Mexico to now, it has gotten worse. Living in Canada, I don't see the need of the water resource, but when talking to my family, I'm always concerned about our resources. So the global consumption of apparel, I was very surprised that there is vending machines to buy clothing in some countries. So I thought that was an important thing to show. There is 62 million tons per year. There has been an increase of recent approximate, sorry, I have to put my thought together there. Since 1917 to 2018, there has been an increase of 62 million tons of pretty much waste into the landfills. It's predicted that it's going to go to 1 or 2 million tons in 2030. So that's very, very concerning, and we're always looking for ways on how to minimize that, considering we're continue to produce garments and knowing that other industries are producing fast fashion. So 80 million garments are produced every year. I actually was thinking that I should have put some images of our scraps. Every time we make a garment from another company, we have a lot of scraps, and I have some images that I can share after. 1.5 trillion liters of water are used for the fashion consumption, and fast fashion brands are producing more and more fashion more often. And we see it when we buy items that are disposable. You use it a couple of times, and then you can find that the fibers are actually just decomposing, just 3 washes, and you can see little holes. That's because the fibers are decomposing. We also find some chemicals in our clothing, which is very concerning. So one of the things we do when we are buying fabrics, we always look for production of fabrics that have certifications to prove that they are sustainable materials. When we are helping clients to produce, design, develop their product, we're always recommending the same to continue with that journey of sustainability. So we, in 2020, when we started making disposable gowns, we were trying to find a way to save our scraps. There was an opportunity to apply for engine funding, and so we wrote a proposal, and we were awarded some funding, and that gave us the opportunity to create a life cycle program, which is a sustainable PPE supply chain for Canada. So the program is, we make gowns, we distribute them to hospitals or organizations. Through the life cycle program, we'll collect them back, we reprocess them. We have partners with other organizations. One is a reprocessing business in Brampton. So we recollect all the used materials, we reprocess them, and then we partner as well with a textile business to reproduce textiles. So we go from making gowns to reprocess into pallets, plastic pallets, textiles, and then back into making the gowns again. So it's a complete life cycle. And of course, that takes a lot of resources. We are in the process of testing the machine for the reprocessing of the fabrics, of the gowns, and we have already diverted 66,000 pounds from the landfill, and that material has been reprocessed into other products, and we have actually sold those products. We're also selling the pallets for other companies to use it for their products as well. The capacity for this machine is to divert 1,000 pounds of material per year. So at a smaller scale here in London, every project we make, we try to figure out where do we put all these fabrics and how can we save them. It's been my goal since I started the business to be able to do something with all the scraps, and we have tried many projects, but as everyone who is in the journey of sustainability, and it has to be a plan and a strategy behind it. So we finally spent these past 2 months, through the summer, we spent doing research, our time doing research, figuring out how to best produce, how to actually take it into the next level and being able to produce not just one item, but reproduce it, and we still have to figure out the market, but we were very focused on this project. So the project will create other products that are coming from scraps, but we wanted to do something a little bit more, not just save the scraps. So we came up with this idea of saving all of our organic waste and planting it. And so this has been definitely a lot of learning, because it requires to learn about how to compost and how to grow plants. And we're very excited to share this because we want to encourage everybody to do the same. And hopefully with this, with this project will help us to pass that message to when people are buying products for us, and where we are going to events, just kind of finding collaborations, partnerships. It's in the very earliest stage. When we just finished the research, and we're continuing to do research, and we figured out how to produce it in an efficient way, but now we still have to do the work. And so I was very happy to hear Kaitlin when you were talking about the impact and the strategy and the action plan So that will be our next step, but I wanted to share this today. I brought actually, so these were our first tiny pieces of scrap that we were trying to save for. This is actually from a hot project. This is from a workwear pants project, and there is the seed and the little germinated seed we just planted today. So this is what we started to do at the beginning of the summer, and we have some plants there, and we have a lot of the plants already at work. And we're trying to encourage our employees to save their organic materials, their organic waste, and give it to us. And we put a name into the plant of the employee, and we are planning to give it back to them. And that's how our initiative started. So thank you. Any questions?